And I know yesterday, or you were recently on the Women in Drones session, you talked quite a bit about how the women in your life, your mother, and now of course your sisters, and then your wife and daughter, have really kind of shaped who you are as a person. I don't know if you want to kind of touch that just briefly
Yeah,
before we
I
get
come
a
from
little
I
bit
come,
into your education.
yeah, I come from Italian family because my mom came from Italian family. My grandparents and my mom's side are Italian, so we have a very strong. All women in my life have very strong character, and they really are the main pillar of my family. From now in my house right now, my wife, and that was my mom and my grandmother. They were very strong women, and I have a huge admiration for them. So they play a very important role in my life, and I have. Yesterday was a little emotional. You remember that,
I
and I will
do.
get emotional if I go through this. So they're very important to me for sure.
Well, and clearly education has been a big part of your experience. And Ed, I think you'll agree that as we look at these great leaders out there, in the world, they're lifelong learners. And I assume that started at an early age. And we just saw a picture of you in high school. I love that picture. So tell us a little bit about your educational journey and how that has shaped, your entrepreneurial journey.
Yeah, so I was born in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. Again, 45 years ago, 1977, and I was in Rio. And when one thing, of course, I come from a middle class family in Brazil, but I always had big dreams. And my father spent most of his money and the time with the kids. We are four siblings, right? My parents, they have four kids in education. So I was fortunate to study in the best schools and best universities. And when I was 16 years old, I came to the US, to Houston, to the Woodlands, by the way, where we did the
Oh, at the energy drone
drone summit.
robotics.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So to study, and I did my last year of high school in the Woodlands in Houston, and that was a picture in my graduation. So when I came back, well, I was 17 years old in that picture, and that was starting my international journey, like living in US, very like talking about 1993 to 1994. So the
Wow.
world was not as globalized as is right now. I remember I was the only foreigner in my school, and it was very the Woodlands was a very traditional city, even more in that point as well, and I started there. And when I was very young, when 22 years old, what you just said, because one of the things we're discussing before is, okay, and you're going to come up with that in our agenda is like, hey, and I don't want to spoil, but hey, how is what was your best boss in your life? I never had a boss because once I graduated from engineering school when I was 22 years old, the first thing I did was to start Cypher. And you're talking about end of 1999. In end of 1999, remember, internet became commercial in 95.
Wow.
iPhone, which is the real first smartphone, was launching in 2007. You talk
Yep.
about almost 7, 8 years before any smartphones being there. Only 4 years after internet became commercial, which at that point was very early stage. Just remember, like time frame. I talk about PayPal really became PayPal in 2001. So that's very early stage there. And I have my vision that of course for me was obvious that internet will become what became now, and technology will evolve that way. And at that point, I was thinking, hey, if internet is becoming important, and I believe that e-commerce is also will be important, and that was my picture when I started Cypher when I was 22 years old, and look very different. I tried to look very serious because I was only 22 years old starting a tech company.
Yep.
So I had to make myself very serious. Even the glass was like a greater character there. And
I love that.
so we're talking about very early stage of tech and super early stage for cybersecurity. And the vision that I had was, okay, if that thing is happening and transactions are going to be done